Spark and Seed proudly presents The Deadly Game in South China Sea, a standoff between the United States and China that almost sparked World War III. The South China Sea glitters under the morning sun, a painter's masterpiece of silver waves and turquoise shoals, but beauty here is a mask. Beneath the calm, war machines prowl, destroyers cutting silent wakes, submarines stalking unseen, fighters carving white scars across the sky. In these waters, a single miscalculation, a wrong turn, a nervous trigger finger could ignite the first great war of the 21st century. For months, incidents have piled up like dry tinder, ships ramming each other at contested reefs, fighter jets passing within meters, submarine shadows slipping into disputed waters. But together, they draw a red circle around the truth. These are flashpoints waiting for a spark. And one day, that spark almost came. From a distance, the sea glistens like molten silver in the early morning haze. From above, its waters looked tranquil, dotted with coral reefs like scattered emeralds. But on the surface, and just beyond the visible horizon, steel monster ships prowled, their hulls bristling with weapons, their crews running silent drills for a war no one admitted they wanted. Tremors before the storm. It began months earlier. A Chinese Coast Guard cutter rammed a Filipino resupply boat near Second Thomas Shoal. A Vietnamese survey ship was chased off by water cannons. An Indonesian patrol caught a Chinese trawler fishing deep inside its EEZ, shadowed by an armed escort. And a US P-8 Poseidon surveillance plane was buzzed so closely by a J-16 fighter that the American crew could see the pilot's scowl through the canopy. Every nation called it an isolated incident, yet each left an invisible crack in the region's fragile peace, cracks that now spiderwebbed beneath the calm surface. The gathering of steel. At dawn, the USS Independence sliced through the waves west of the Spratly Islands. Captain Samnang Som, a Cambodian-American naval officer, strategizes his next moves, scanning the horizon where a gray shape, a Chinese Type 055 destroyer, crept closer. Its radar arrays turned slowly, like the eyes of a predator. Contact closing to 6 nautical miles, reported Lieutenant Marissa Hale in Combat Information Center, her fingers dancing over the Aegis console. Above them, the sky was a tangle of contrails, FA-18 Super Hornets, streaked out from the USS Ronald Reagan, mirrored by Chinese J-16s climbing from Woody Island. Their afterburners painted orange scars across the pale blue. High overhead, a US RQ-4 Global Hawk droned silently, its sensors feeding real-time images of Chinese island bases, missile batteries hidden beneath camouflage nets, fortified hangars brimming with J-20 stealth fighters, and submarine pens cut deep into Hainan's granite cliffs. In the abyss below, a Virginia-class submarine glided in the dark, its sonar tracking the faint heartbeat of a Chinese Yuan-class sub lurking nearby. The ASEAN chessboard. Far from the spray and salt, the ASEAN defense ministers met in Singapore. Vietnam had already dispatched Kilo-class submarines to patrol Vanguard Bank. The Philippines had quietly reopened Subic Bay to US forces, but President Reyes feared the economic lash from Beijing. Malaysia played the diplomat's game, but Lekyu-class frigates on exercises just happened to pass by the Luconia Shoals. Indonesia kept to its neutral script, yet its Sukhoi Su-30 jets screamed over the Natuna Islands in a clear show of force. Everyone nodded at talk of stability. No one admitted they were arming for a fight. The spark, it came like a flick of a match. A Philippine Coast Guard vessel, ferrying supplies to the rusted hulk that served as an outpost on 2nd Thomas Shoal, reported being cut off by a Chinese Coast Guard ship, this time at 20 meters. The footage hit Manila before the salt dried on the decks. Crowds gathered outside the Chinese embassy, chanting for the Navy to respond. The U.S. Independents moved to escort the Filipinos. Within hours, Chinese destroyers Guiyang and Nanchang fell in beside her, matching speed, daring the Americans to blink. The edge of the knife, the sea became a chessboard alive with movement. US F-35Cs arced high above, their radar signatures ghostly on Chinese scopes. Chinese J-20 stealth fighters stalked them from the clouds. Vietnamese diesel-electric subs crept toward the contested reefs, torpedo tubes loaded. Malaysian AWACS planes swept the sky, their radar pulses painting everything in range. In Independence's CIC, Hale's console lit up, multiple inbound contacts, unmanned surface vessels, speed 40 knots. Small, fast, armed. The Phalanx CIWS spun up with a metallic whine, barrels tracking the darting shapes. Hale's finger hovered just above the trigger. The moment that almost was. On the bridge of the Guiyang, Captain Wei Jiancheng gripped the rail. He had his orders. Block the Americans, no retreat. He remembered the 2001 EP-3 incident, when pride nearly drowned them all. But this time, the air was electric, with the possibility that one squeeze of a trigger could rewrite history. At 500 meters, the drones slowed. A signal from Beijing froze them in place. Across the water, Hale's hand dropped from the trigger. The silence after the tension was almost unbearable. The pullback. In New York, a back-channel UN meeting brokered a fragile pause. In Jakarta, ASEAN leaders drafted a maritime code of conduct, their pens scratching against the weight of history. In Tokyo and Canberra, officials whispered relief, but no one believed it would last. By nightfall, the fleets had drifted apart, their wakes fading into the dark, like the afterimage of a nightmare. Lessons in the wake. That night, the South China Sea lay calm again, the moonlight brushing its surface as if nothing had happened. But every sailor, every pilot, every diplomat knew how close they had come to lighting the fuse. From the fishermen in Palawan to the traders in Singapore, the lesson was bitter but clear. In a world of overlapping claims, pride can be deadlier than any missile. We must talk before we sail into each other's shadows. We must share before the sea becomes a battlefield. We must remember that once the first shot is fired, the ocean doesn't care who started it, only who it swallows. Because the real victory is not in who holds the reef, but in ensuring the sea stays a highway for life, not a graveyard of ambition. Thank you for watching. If you like what you just saw, share it, subscribe, and leave a comment or two. At Spark and Seed, igniting ideas, growing knowledge.